All right, welcome to another Deep Talks, everybody.
Yeah, always fun to jump into these.
Yeah, so today we're going to be diving into...
Kind of a foundational topic.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably already know.
Yeah, but still, it's good to go back to the basics.
It is. So we're talking about the Dart programming language.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at...
This awesome video, I really liked it.
Yeah, the #1 Introduction to Flutter Basics video.
From the YouTube channel Error Makes Clever.
Yeah, this was a really cool one. It's a Tamil tutorial.
Yeah, really well done. Great for beginners.
Yeah, and so we're going to try to extract...
the most important information.
Yeah, so if you don't have time to watch the whole thing.
You can listen to us ramble about it.
Right, so the big question right off the bat.
Why Dart?
Yeah, why should our listeners care about this?
So the video starts off by talking about...
It's the history, right.
Yeah, Dart was created by Google.
Back in 2011.
Yeah, which honestly is...
kind of a while ago.
Yeah, it's been around for a bit.
And the tutorial makes this really interesting point.
About its popularity really surging.
Yeah, around 2015.
And we all know what happened in 2015.
Flutter came on the scene.
Flutter was announced, and everyone was like, what is this Dart thing?
Right, exactly. So that's a really...
pivotal moment.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's important to note...
that Dart isn't just...
tied to Flutter.
Right. So it's...
the tutorial actually points out that Dart can be used for a lot of things.
What else?
Web applications.
Oh, wow.
They even mentioned that Google Ads was built using Dart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and server-side applications.
So back-end stuff, too.
All kinds of stuff.
Wow, that's pretty versatile.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about...
the design philosophy.
Right, like why did they...
make such a...
multi-purpose language.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, not just a UI tool.
Okay, so in terms of how it actually works...
structurally, the video explains that Dart is an object-oriented...
programming language.
Now, a lot of you might be familiar with...
other OOP languages.
yeah, like JavaScript, Java...
C++.
yeah, so if you've ever used those...
a lot of the principles.
will carry over.
Right. Should be pretty familiar.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Flutter is famous for.
Cross-platform compatibility.
Right, being able to run on all different platforms.
The tutorial actually touches on how Dart enables this.
Yeah, could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So a key feature of Dart is its ability to compile into different types of code.
Oh, interesting.
So it can be compiled into native code.
Which is what, like, Android and iOS can actually understand.
Exactly. It's the language that the operating systems
can work with.
Yeah, directly.
Okay.
But it can also be compiled into JavaScript.
Oh, wow.
Which is what runs in web browsers.
So that's how Flutter can...
target all these different platforms.
Yeah.
Because the same code...
can be basically transformed.
Exactly. It can run natively on Android and iOS.
Wow. And as a website.
That's pretty powerful.
That's super cool.
It is, but it also makes me think...
yeah.
does this dual compilation ever cause problems?
For the developers.
Yeah, like having to think about...
two different environments.
Exactly, because native and web are quite different.
I mean, the core language is the same.
Right, the core Dart language is consistent.
But there are probably platform-specific...
things to consider.
yeah, like how the UI looks.
Exactly, and accessing certain features.
Things that are only available on one platform or the other.
Yeah, and Flutter does a lot of work to...
try to abstract those differences away.
Right, but developers still...
sometimes need to be mindful.
yeah, especially for more complex stuff.
Right. But I guess the benefit of writing code once.
And deploying it everywhere probably outweighs those challenges.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on.
Okay, we've established why Dart's important.
Now let's look at how to actually write it.
Yeah, so the tutorial introduces this tool.
Dartpad.
Which is awesome. I love Dartpad.
It's so beginner-friendly.
It is. So it's an online environment.
where you can write and run Dart code.
Right in your browser.
You don't need to install anything.
Which is so convenient.
Makes it really accessible.
And of course, the first thing.
The classic first step.
Yeah. Gotta print hello world.
It's the rite of passage.
What are the absolute essentials?
According to the video.
Yeah, like what do you need to even do that?
So the tutorial introduces the void main function.
Void main.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
So that's the entry point.
Yeah, it's like the starting gate.
Like the first thing that gets executed.
Yeah, and you define it.
With the parentheses and the curly braces.
Those curly braces are important.
What goes in there?
That's where your code goes.
Okay, so within those curly braces,
we tell the program what to do.
The tutorial highlights the print statement.
For displaying output.
So how does that work?
It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
Whatever you put inside the parentheses of print
okay.
gets displayed in the console.
So in this case, we would put
Hello world.
Inside the parentheses.
Yeah, and those double quotes
indicate that it's a string.
A sequence of characters.
Right, and then you end it with a semicolon.
Gotta have that semicolon.
Every statement in Dart ends with a semicolon.
Just like JavaScript and Java.
Okay, so that's how you print hello world.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and then the tutorial goes on to this.
Ooh, visual exercise.
Yeah, printing a pattern of asterisks.
Using multiple print statements.
Why do you think they did that?
It's a great way to illustrate.
Sequential execution.
Yeah, so you're basically creating a shape.
By using different numbers of asterisks.
In each print statement.
And that visually shows
that the code runs line by line.
In order.
It's a foundational concept.
Okay, so we've covered displaying text.
Now let's dive into storing and working with data.
Yeah, the video introduces this concept of variables.
Using a really easy to understand analogy.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So they talk about variables being like
containers
or labeled boxes
that hold information.
So you can think of them as like
little storage spaces.
With names on them.
And they give this simple math example.
A, B
equals 20.
And C equals A plus B.
So C would hold the result.
Which is 30.
Right, because A plus B is 30.
Oh, exactly.
So that demonstrates how you can
store values in these named locations.
Okay, so A, B, and C are like the names.
Yeah, the boxes.
But what if we want to store different types of information?
Not just numbers.
That's where data types come in.
Right. The video uses another great analogy here.
Yeah.
They talk about how you have
specific containers for different things.
Like a water container for water.
Rice container for rice.
You wouldn't put rice in a water container.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in programming,
we have different data types
for different kinds of data
to make sure it's handled correctly.
Exactly.
And the first data type the tutorial introduces
is for integer numbers.
Whole numbers.
The key word for that in Dart is int.
Int.
And they show you how to declare integer variables.
Like this.
Yeah.
Int A 10.
Int B uxnology.
Int C equals A plus B.
And they emphasize that in Dart.
You often need to declare the data type
before you assign a value.
Oh, that's interesting.
It helps the compiler understand what's going on.
Okay, so it knows what type of data
is being stored
and how to work with it.
Right.
The tutorial also clarifies this point
about how print behaves.
Yeah, with double quotes versus without.
That can be confusing for beginners.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So when you use double quotes in a print statement, like
hello?
Print hello.
Right?
Dart takes that literally.
So it prints exactly what's in the quotes.
Yeah, but if you use a variable name
without the double quotes,
like print,
okay,
Dart will actually print
the value stored in the variable.
So it looks at the value of a
and displays that.
Yeah, it's a subtle but important difference.
That makes sense.
And then to solidify this understanding
of integer variables,
the tutorial expands on that initial math example.
Oh, right.
So they show you how to declare and add together
multiple integer variables.
Just to drive the point home.
That you can create.
Multiple storage spaces for numbers.
And perform operations on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can handle whole numbers.
What about text?
Yeah. The tutorial introduces another data type.
For working with text.
That's the string data type.
Important note, it starts with a capital S.
String, capital S. And you use double quotes.
To enclose text values.
Like this. String name, John.
Okay, so the double quotes are important.
They tell Dart that it's a string.
And the video makes sure to point out.
The difference between int and string.
In terms of capitalization.
Yeah, because Dart is case sensitive.
Okay, so got to pay attention to that.
So we've learned about data types.
Now it's time to put this knowledge into practice.
The video presents these
mini programming challenges.
Yeah, they're like little exercises.
Will help you apply what you've learned.
So the first one is pretty simple.
Okay.
You have to write a program
that
stores your name, your age, and your address.
In separate variables. So you have to think about
which data type to use for each.
Right, because name and address would be strings.
And age would be an integer.
Exactly.
So it forces you to think about
how to apply these concepts.
Yeah. And then the second challenge.
The fruit purchase program.
Yeah, this one's a bit more involved.
It builds on the previous concept.
So you have to create a string variable.
Called fruit.
Okay, and set it to apple.
Then you create an integer variable.
Called price.
And set it to, say, 10.
For the price of one apple.
Right, and then another integer variable.
Called count.
For the number of apples you're buying.
Let's say 3 apples.
And then you have to calculate the total price.
So you create another integer variable.
A total.
And you multiply count and price.
Using the asterisk as the multiplication operator.
Okay, so total would be 30 in this case.
And then finally,
they have to display
the name of the fruit and the total price.
Okay, so you'd have to combine
the string apple with the number 30.
Yeah, it's interesting how even these basic exercises
can give you a glimpse into
how programming works.
You're storing data, performing operations.
It's all very practical.
Yeah, these challenges are designed to bridge the gap
between theory and application.
So you can start to see
how these individual elements come together
to create something useful.
Okay, so let's wrap up.
Yeah, let's recap.
What we've learned in this deep dive.
All thanks to error makes clever.
So we started by looking at Dart's history.
Its creation at Google.
Its role in the rise of Flutter.
And its surprising versatility.
It's not just for mobile apps.
We also talked about its object-oriented nature.
And that crucial compilation ability.
Native code in JavaScript.
So that's what makes Flutter cross-platform.
Then we got hands-on with Dartpad.
Learned about void main.
The print function.
And even created that asterisk pattern.
We explored variables and data types.
In for whole numbers, string for text.
We learned how to declare variables.
Assign values to them.
And how print works differently.
With and without double quotes.
Finally, we tackled those programming challenges.
Storing personal info and calculating a fruit purchase.
So you, our listener,
now have this foundational understanding
of core Dart concepts.
But as with any learning journey,
this is just the beginning.
It is. So this brings up a question.
How can you use these basic building blocks?
These variables, data types, operations.
To build actual user interfaces.
Like the ones you see in Flutter apps.
What kind of data does an app need to manage?
How can you display that data to the user?
What other simple programs could you create in Dartpad?
What other types of information might you want to store?
What other operations could you perform?
This is where your creativity comes in.
Yeah, start experimenting.
We've given you the tools.
Now it's time to explore.
And who knows, maybe in future deep dives,
we can delve into more advanced Dart features.
Or how these concepts translate into real Flutter apps.
Until then,
happy coding, everyone.
Keep exploring Dart.
See you next time.